Hello, my dear friend. Today I'm sharing my story about something that may seem simple but can have a big impact. Our daily routine. You know, a routine is just what we do every day, right? It's those little habits that shape how we feel, how much we achieve, and even how we grow as a person. We all have one, whether we realize it or not. Some people's routines are super organized. They wake up at the same time every day, have a set schedule for everything, and seem to have it all together. For others, the routine might be a little more chaotic, but there's still a pattern in how the day flows. Now, why are routines important? Well, think about it. A routine gives you structure. When you have a plan or habits that you stick to, it helps your brain relax because you know what's coming next. You can focus more on the things you enjoy or want to improve at. A good routine also helps us stay healthy, be productive, and have more time for fun. This story is about a boy who's learning the importance of routines. His name is Liam. He's a normal kid like you, but he struggles with feeling overwhelmed sometimes because he doesn't have a solid daily routine. He knows he needs to change things, but where do you even start? This is the journey of how Liam transforms his chaotic days into something meaningful, and how small changes in his daily habits make a big difference in his life. Let's dive into Liam's world. Imagine him talking directly to you, sharing his story in his own words. Here's how it all starts. Hey, I'm Liam. I used to think that having a routine was something only really busy or super organized people did. Like, I figured routines were for adults with jobs or for people who had a ton of responsibilities. But lately, I've been feeling like my days are just a mess, and I don't really get anything done. I wake up whenever I feel like it, and by the time I've scrolled through my phone, half the day is gone. My mom always tells me I need to get into a routine if I want to feel less stressed, but I never really listened. I thought, how can something as simple as having a schedule or routine fix everything? It just seemed too easy. But after a lot of procrastination and random days of feeling like I wasn't doing anything with my time, I finally decided to give it a try. So one day I sat down and made a plan for my day. I told myself, all right, Liam, if you're going to try this routine thing, you're going to do it properly. I figured I'd start with the basics, waking up at the same time every day, eating breakfast, doing some exercise, and actually getting through my schoolwork without getting distracted. Sounds easy, right? Well, not so much. The first day, I set my alarm for 7 a.m. I wanted to be one of those people who get up early, feel productive, and conquer the world. But here's the thing. 7 a.m. is really early when you're used to sleeping in until 9 or 10. When my alarm went off, I felt like a zombie. I hit the snooze button so many times that I didn't actually get out of bed until 8:30. Not the best start to my new routine, but I wasn't ready to give up just yet. I figured I'd just move everything in my schedule back by an hour. After finally getting out of bed, I went straight to the kitchen to make breakfast. I didn't have anything fancy, just cereal and milk, but it felt good to actually eat something right after waking up instead of skipping breakfast like I usually do. Next up on my routine plan was exercise. Now, I'm not a super athletic person, but I'd heard from a bunch of people that doing some kind of physical activity in the morning can help wake you up and make you feel more energized throughout the day. So, I decided to do a short workout video I found online. It was only 10 minutes, but by the end of it, I was already out of breath. I thought, man, I've really got to start exercising more often. After my workout, I felt pretty good. I was actually awake and ready to start the day, which was a huge improvement from my usual slow, lazy mornings. So, I sat down to do my schoolwork. I made a promise to myself that I wouldn't get distracted by my phone or YouTube or anything else. I opened my books and got to work. But of course, that didn't last long. After about 15 minutes of studying, my mind started wandering. I thought, maybe I'll just check my phone for a second. You know how that goes. It's never just a second. Next thing I knew, I had spent half an hour scrolling through random videos and had no idea what I'd even watched. At this point, I was pretty frustrated with myself. How was I ever going to stick to a routine if I couldn't even stay focused for 20 minutes? But then I remembered something my dad once told me. It's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent. That gave me some hope. I wasn't going to get it right on the first try, but I could keep trying. So that's what I did. Over the next few days, I stuck to my plan as much as I could. Some days were better than others. Some days I woke up right on time, ate a healthy breakfast, exercised, and finished all my schoolwork without any distractions. Other days, well, let's just say they didn't go as smoothly. But the important thing was that I was trying, and I was getting better little by little. The thing I started to realize was that having a routine didn't mean I had to be perfect or do everything at the same time every day. It just gave me a framework, something to guide me through the day. It helped me feel more in control and less stressed out about what I needed to do. Plus, the more I stuck to it, the easier it became. My mornings became my favorite part of the day. I never thought I'd say that because I used to hate waking up early. But there was something nice about having a quiet morning to myself where I could eat breakfast, get moving with a quick workout, and start the day feeling like I was actually accomplishing something. And you know what? My day started to feel more productive too. When I had a routine, I didn't waste as much time. I still had time for fun and relaxing, but I also felt like I was getting things done. Whether it was schoolwork, helping out around the house, or even just making time to read a book or practice a hobby, I felt more in control of my day. Of course, there were still some challenges, like for example, weekends. I used to think weekends were my free days where I could just do nothing and relax. And while it's definitely important to rest, I realized that I still needed some kind of routine on the weekends too. Otherwise, I'd just waste the whole day sleeping in and doing nothing, and then I'd feel bad about it later. So, I started making a more relaxed weekend routine. I let myself sleep in a little later, but I still got up around the same time. I made sure to still eat breakfast, do some kind of exercise, and spend a little time on something productive, like reading or learning something new. Then, I'd have the rest of the day to hang out with friends, play video games, or watch a movie. The biggest lesson I've learned from all this is that routines aren't just about being productive. They're about taking care of yourself too. By setting aside time each day for things like exercise, healthy eating, and focusing on what's important, you're showing yourself that you matter. You're giving yourself the space to grow and improve, and that feels pretty great. Now, my days aren't perfect. There are still times when I hit snooze too many times or get distracted by my phone, but that's okay. I'm not trying to be perfect, just consistent. And the more I stick to my routine, the easier it gets. So, if you're like me and you've been feeling like your days are just slipping by without much direction, I'd say give it a try. Start small, make a plan, and see how it feels. It might take a little while to get the hang of it, but once you do, you'll feel so much more in control of your day and your life. As time went on, I started to notice other things about myself too. One of the biggest things, my energy. I never realized how much my daily habits, or lack of them, were affecting how I felt throughout the day. Before I started my routine, I'd have these huge energy crashes in the afternoon. I'd get so tired, and I'd just end up lying around or napping when I should have been getting things done. But now, with a more consistent schedule, my energy wasn't so all over the place. Sure, I still had moments when I felt tired, but because I was waking up and going to bed at the same times, eating regular meals and moving my body, my energy felt more balanced. I had more stamina to focus during the day. One day, I remember sitting down with my mom after dinner. We were talking about how my routine was going, and I asked her, "Why didn't you push me to do this sooner?" Like, I had no idea routines made such a big difference. She smiled and said, "Liam, you had to figure it out on your own. Sometimes you can tell someone something 100 times, but they won't really get it until they experience it themselves." That hit me hard. I thought back to all the times she'd told me to make a plan or set a schedule, and I just brushed her off. I guess I wasn't ready then, but now I was. It made me think about how we don't always listen to advice, even when we should. Sometimes we have to go through a bit of chaos to understand why structure is important. As the weeks went on, I got better at sticking to my routine. I started adding new things to it, like reading for 20 minutes before bed, or making time to practice playing the guitar, which was something I'd always wanted to get better at. But of course, not everything went smoothly. There were days when I totally failed at my routine. Like this one weekend, I had planned to wake up at 8 a.m., do a quick workout, and then spend the rest of the morning studying for an upcoming test. But guess what? I stayed up way too late the night before watching a new TV show. I thought I'd just watch one episode, but then it turned into two, then three. You know how it goes. When my alarm went off the next morning, there was no way I was getting out of bed. I hit snooze over and over again until it was almost noon. By the time I got up, I felt groggy and kind of disappointed in myself. I hadn't done anything I planned to do, and now the day was halfway over. At first, I was mad. I thought, great, now my whole routine is ruined. But then I remembered something important. Routines aren't about being perfect. They're about showing up, even when you don't feel like it. So instead of giving up on the rest of the day, I got up, made myself a late breakfast, and decided to at least do part of what I'd planned. I didn't get all my studying done, but I did some of it. And you know what? That was enough for me. That's when I realized something else. Flexibility is key. A routine shouldn't make you feel trapped. It should help guide you, but it should also give you room to breathe. There will always be days when things don't go as planned, but that doesn't mean the whole day is a waste. You can always get back on track, even if it's later than you hoped. As my routine became more ingrained, I started noticing that my friends were curious about it too. One of my best friends, Ethan, asked me one day, "Dude, what's up with you lately? You seem different." I laughed and said, "What do you mean?" "You just seem more, I don't know, like you've got your life together or something. What's your secret?" I shrugged. "Honestly, I just started following a routine. It's not that deep, but it's been helping me a lot." Ethan looked at me like I'd said something totally groundbreaking. "A routine? Like waking up at the same time and stuff?" "Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's helped me feel more in control of my day. You should try it." Ethan wasn't convinced at first. He was like I used to be, skeptical that something as simple as a routine could make a big difference. But a few weeks later, he texted me saying, "Okay, I'm trying this routine thing. What do you do in the mornings? I sent him my basic plan. Wake up at the same time, eat breakfast, do some light exercise, then dive into whatever needed to get done for the day. He followed it for a week and couldn't believe how much better he felt. Why didn't we do this sooner? He asked. I told him the same thing my mom had told me. Sometimes you've got to figure it out for yourself. The cool thing is, once I got used to my routine, it wasn't just about getting things done anymore. It became something I looked forward to. The mornings weren't a struggle like they used to be. I'd wake up, eat a nice breakfast, and start my day with a sense of purpose. It's weird, but even simple things like making my bed or cleaning up after myself became part of my routine, and they gave me this weird sense of accomplishment. There was also something else I noticed. I had more time. It sounds strange, but by sticking to a routine, I actually ended up with more free time. When I used to just drift through the day, I'd waste so much time trying to figure out what to do next or getting distracted. But with a plan in place, I was more efficient, and that gave me extra time to hang out with friends, play video games, or just relax without feeling guilty. By the end of the month, I felt like a different person. Sure, I still had days where I messed up or didn't stick to the plan, but overall, I was more focused, less stressed, and just happier. I didn't feel like my days were slipping away anymore. I was in control of them. A couple of months passed, and by this point, my routine had become second nature. I didn't even need to think about it anymore. Waking up, eating breakfast, exercising, studying, and keeping track of my tasks just happened. But something surprising started to happen. I noticed how this routine was affecting other parts of my life, not just my energy and productivity. One day after school, my teacher asked me to stay back for a moment. I thought, oh great, what did I forget to do this time? But to my surprise, she smiled and said, Liam, I've noticed something different about you lately. I raised my eyebrows. Really? Different how? You seem more focused, more on top of things. Your assignments have been on time, and your participation in class has improved. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. I left the classroom with a huge grin on my face. I hadn't even realized it, but my routine was helping me do better in school. I wasn't rushing through homework or cramming for tests at the last minute anymore. Instead, I was staying on top of everything without feeling overwhelmed. At home, things were getting better too. My parents noticed that I wasn't procrastinating as much, and even my little sister Lily said something one day. Liam, why are you always so calm now? You used to get so stressed out. I shrugged. I don't know. I guess it's just because I've got a routine now. I know what I'm doing every day, so there's less to freak out about. She wrinkled her nose in that way little sisters do. So, you're saying if I make a routine, I won't be stressed out about homework? Well, I can't promise that, but it'll probably help, I said, laughing. Lily was younger than me, and she still had that energy that made her zoom around the house, barely able to sit still. But after hearing me talk about my routine, she got curious and wanted to try it out. We sat down one evening and planned out a basic schedule for her, just like I'd done for myself. It wasn't anything fancy. Wake up, eat breakfast, do homework right after school, then have time to play or watch TV. A week later, she came running up to me. Liam, guess what? I actually finished my homework early. Now I can watch my show. I high-fived her. See? I told you it would help. It felt good to know that my routine was not only improving my own life, but was also starting to influence the people around me. I guess when you feel more in control of your time and your days, other people notice. It's like they can sense the change in you. Then one day, Ethan texted me, "Hey, you busy? Want to hang out later?" I had some schoolwork to finish, but since my routine had made me more efficient, I had time. "Yeah, sure," I replied. "Come over around 4." Ethan showed up at my house a little after 4, and we headed to the park to shoot some hoops. As we were walking there, he asked, "So, you've been sticking to that routine thing, huh?" "Yeah," I said, bouncing the basketball as we walked. "It's actually made a bigger difference than I thought it would." Ethan nodded. "I've been trying to follow one too. It's been tough to stay consistent, but on the days I do stick to it, I feel a lot better." "It gets easier over time," I told him. "At first I thought I'd never be able to keep it up, but now it's just part of my day." We played basketball for a while, and afterward, we sat on a bench, catching our breath. Ethan looked at me and said, "You know, I always thought having a routine would make life boring. Like doing the same thing every day would get old fast, but it's weird. My days actually feel less stressful now." I nodded. "I know, right? It's like, because you've got a plan, you don't have to waste time figuring out what to do next. You just do it, and then you've got more time to relax or have fun." Ethan smiled. "Yeah, it's kind of cool. I might actually stick with it." Hearing Ethan talk like that made me realize how far we'd both come. A few months ago, we were both drifting through our days, not really paying attention to how much time we were wasting. But now, we were more intentional about how we spent our time, and it was making a big difference. As the weeks went on, I continued to tweak my routine. I started adding in more time for hobbies, like guitar practice or reading, and even made sure I had time to hang out with friends. I learned that a routine doesn't have to be rigid. It can be flexible, and it should include things you enjoy. One Saturday morning, I woke up to the sound of birds chirping outside my window. I rolled over, checked the time, 7:30 a.m. I smiled. It was a weekend, and I could have slept in, but I didn't want to. I felt refreshed and ready to start the day. After getting dressed and grabbing a quick breakfast, I decided to head to the park for a walk. It had become part of my weekend routine to get outside and clear my head before the day really got going. As I walked, I thought about how much had changed since I first decided to create a routine. I wasn't that same kid who wasted half the day scrolling on his phone or feeling like he couldn't get anything done. I felt more in control of my time, more confident in myself, and just happier. I knew there would still be days when things didn't go as planned, but that was okay. I'd learned that routines aren't about perfection, they're about consistency. And with that consistency came a sense of peace and purpose that I hadn't felt before. When I got back home, I saw Lily sitting at the kitchen table, working on a project for school. She looked up at me and smiled. "Morning, Liam? Guess what? I finished all my homework yesterday, so now I've got the whole day free." "That's awesome, Lily," I said, grabbing a glass of water. "See? Routines work." She grinned. "Yep, and now I get to do whatever I want today." As I headed to my room, I felt a sense of pride, not just for myself, but for Lily too. She was learning, just like I had, that taking control of your day gave you more freedom, not less. Later that afternoon, I sat down at my desk and opened my journal, where I kept track of my routines and any adjustments I wanted to make. I had an idea pop into my head. something I hadn't really thought about before. What if I shared what I'd learned about routines with other people, like my classmates or even other kids online? I jotted down some notes and thought about starting a small blog or maybe even a YouTube channel where I could talk about how routines had changed my life. It sounded a little scary at first, but I figured, why not? If I could help even one person feel more in control of their days like I did, then it would be worth it. I sat back and smiled. This journey wasn't over. It was just getting started. The idea of sharing my routine and experiences with others kept bouncing around in my head for the next few days. I'd never thought of myself as someone who could give advice, let alone help other people get their lives together. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. If routines had helped me so much, why couldn't they help someone else? Especially kids like me who felt lost or overwhelmed with everything going on in their lives. One evening, after dinner, I brought it up with my parents. Hey, I've been thinking about starting a blog or maybe a YouTube channel about routines and stuff, I said, trying to sound casual but feeling a little nervous. My dad looked up from his phone, surprised. A blog? About routines? That's an interesting idea. Yeah, I said. I've been thinking about how much having a routine has helped me, and maybe I could share that with other people, Like, help them get organized or figure out how to manage their time better. My mom smiled and nodded. I think that's a great idea, Liam. You've come a long way with your routine, and if you can help others feel the same way, why not share it? Exactly, I said, feeling a rush of excitement. I just don't know where to start. Should I do a blog or would a YouTube channel be better? My parents exchanged a glance and my dad said, well, you've got a good way of explaining things, so maybe videos could work. But you could always start small. Write some blog posts, see how it feels, and then decide if you want to do videos later. That sounded like a solid plan. Starting with writing felt a little less intimidating than jumping straight into videos, and I knew I could always try both later on. I thanked my parents for their advice, then went upstairs to my room, fired up my laptop, and started brainstorming. I sat at my desk for what felt like hours, jotting down ideas. I thought about everything I'd learned over the past few months, the mistakes I'd made, the challenges I'd faced, and all the little wins that had kept me going. I wanted to share it all, but I knew I had to start simple. My first blog post could be about how to create a basic routine, just the same way I had, starting with small steps. After typing up a rough draft, I felt a sense of accomplishment. I wasn't sure if anyone would even read it, but just the act of writing it down, of sharing my thoughts, made me feel proud. I knew this was the beginning of something new for me, another way to push myself and grow. The next day, I shared my idea with Ethan while we were walking home from school. So, I've been thinking about starting a blog to talk about routines, I said, trying to gauge his reaction. Ethan looked at me, surprised but intrigued. A blog? Dude, that's actually a cool idea. You could totally do that. You've been so into this whole routine thing and it's working for you. Why not help other people figure it out? That's what I was thinking, I said. I was just worried it might be kind of weird. Like, who am I to give advice? Ethan laughed. Nah, man. You've actually done it. You've stuck to a routine and it's made a big difference. That's more than most people can say. Plus, if anyone can explain it in a way that makes sense, it's you. His words gave me a boost of confidence. I realized that maybe I didn't need to be an expert to help others. I just needed to share my story honestly and show people that routines don't have to be complicated or boring. They can be a tool to make life easier, and I could show that by just being myself. By the end of that week, I'd officially started my blog. I named it The Routine Fix and wrote my first post about how I had started small, setting a wake-up time, planning my mornings, and building from there. I included tips on how to stick to a routine, even on tough days, and how to forgive yourself when things didn't go perfectly. At first, I wasn't sure if anyone would read it. But then something amazing happened. After sharing the link with a few friends and family members, I started getting comments from people. Some I didn't even know. They were saying things like, "This is exactly what I needed. And I've been struggling with getting my life together, but this makes it seem doable." The feedback made me feel more connected to people than I ever had before. Suddenly, it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about helping others figure things out for themselves, just like I had. One message stood out in particular. It was from a kid named Jordan, who said he'd been feeling really overwhelmed with school, sports, and just life in general. He told me that reading my blog made him feel like he wasn't alone, and that he was going to try setting a routine for himself. That hit me hard. I hadn't expected my words to resonate with someone like that, and it made me realize that this whole idea was worth it. Helping just one person feel better about their day was more than enough motivation to keep going. I kept writing, posting once a week. Each post was about a different part of my routine journey, like how I stayed motivated, what I did on days when I felt like giving up, and how to balance having fun with staying productive. My blog slowly started to grow, and before I knew it, more and more people were leaving comments and sharing their own stories about how routines were helping them. As the months went by, I decided to finally take the plunge and start making YouTube videos. It was nerve-wracking at first. Talking in front of a camera wasn't exactly something I was used to, but once I got the hang of it, it felt natural. I treated it just like I was talking to a friend, explaining what I'd learned and offering tips. Ethan helped me with the video editing at first since he was better at that stuff, and soon enough I had my first video up on the channel. I called it, "Routines Changed My Life. Here's How You Can Do It Too." The response was incredible. People were actually watching, commenting, and subscribing. My favorite part was when I'd get messages from people who said they were trying out their own routines, following the simple steps I had laid out. Some of them even sent me updates letting me know how much more organized they felt or how they had more energy now. It was crazy to think that just a few months ago, I had been that kid, completely scattered, feeling like I had no control over my day. And now, here I was, helping others take control of their own time and find a sense of peace and balance. But I knew that I wasn't done learning either. There were still plenty of days where my routine fell apart or where I felt like I was slipping back into old habits. But that was okay. I had learned that it wasn't about being perfect, it was about being persistent. Every day was another chance to show up, try again, and get a little better. Looking back, I realized that starting a routine had been about so much more than just getting things done. It had given me confidence, purpose, and a way to help others. And as I continued to grow, I knew I'd keep refining my routine, adding new things, letting go of old ones, and always staying flexible. Because in the end, it wasn't just about following a strict schedule. It was about finding a rhythm that worked for me, and knowing that I had the power to shape my days, my time, and my life. Daily routines can sound boring, right? Like something only adults worry about. But honestly, having a routine is way more important than I thought, especially for someone like me, a kid who's constantly juggling school, friends, hobbies, and life in general. When I didn't have a routine, my days felt chaotic. I was always rushing to finish homework at the last minute or forgetting important things. But once I started paying attention to how I spent my time, things changed. I realized that having a routine doesn't mean you become a robot. It means you gain control of your day and, more importantly, your time. It's about balance, making sure you have enough time for everything you love while still getting stuff done. In the story you're about to read, I'm going to walk you through a typical day in my life. A day where I've learned to balance school, fun, and me, the freedom to enjoy the things I love. It's not perfect. And trust me, I still mess up sometimes, but this routine has definitely made my life better. It's 6:30 a.m., and my alarm goes off. I groan. Mornings are not my favorite, but hey, it's part of the deal. I drag myself out of bed and stumble into the bathroom to splash some cold water on my face. That's my first hack for waking up. If you've never tried it, trust me. It's like a mini shock to the system. I feel slightly more alive as I brush my teeth and get ready for the day. My next stop is the kitchen. Mom's already up, sipping her coffee and reading something on her tablet. "Morning, sleepyhead," she says, not looking up. I mumble a response and go straight for my go-to breakfast, a bowl of cereal and a banana. It's quick, it's easy, and it gets the job done. By 7 a.m., I'm sitting at the table with my phone, checking my to-do list for the day. I didn't always do this, but it's something I started recently, and it helps me stay organized. I use an app that lets me break down my day into small tasks. Stuff like finish math homework, study for history test, or practice guitar. I check to see what's coming up so I can mentally prepare. 7:15 a.m. rolls around, and I know I've got to leave for school soon, but I take a few minutes to sit by the window and look outside. This has become one of my favorite parts of the morning. It sounds silly, but just taking a moment to breathe and enjoy the quiet before the craziness of the day begins really helps me. The sun's just starting to peek over the horizon, and for those few minutes, I feel calm, ready. By 7:30 a.m., I'm out the door and heading to school. I live close enough to walk, and I actually like the walk. It gives me time to think. I throw on my headphones and my playlist kicks in. Music always gets me in a good mood for the day ahead. When I get to school, it's game on. First period is math, and I'll admit, math is not my strong suit. But since I started sticking to my routine, I've been getting better at managing my homework. No more cramming in assignments at the last minute. During class, I try to stay focused, which is harder than it sounds when your brain is still half asleep. But today, I've got it. I solve a few problems on the board, and for once, I don't feel like I'm drowning in numbers. That's a win in my book. By the time lunch rolls around, I'm ready for a break. I meet up with my friends, Ethan, Jake, and Mia, and we all head to the cafeteria. We sit in our usual spot, talking about everything from the latest game to weekend plans. It's nice to just unwind for a bit, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about the history test I have in the afternoon. Instead of stressing, I remember that I've already studied. I reviewed my notes the night before as part of my evening routine. It makes me feel calmer, like I've got this under control. The test goes by pretty smoothly. I wouldn't say I aced it, but I feel confident. When the last bell rings at 3 p.m., I head home, feeling pretty good about how the day has gone so far. But the day's not over yet. Once I get home, I take about 30 minutes to just chill. I've learned that it's important to give yourself a break after school. Otherwise, your brain turns to mush. I grab a snack and watch a couple of videos on YouTube. After that, it's time to hit the books again. I have a little bit of math homework to finish, but since I already did most of it during study hall, it doesn't take long. By 5 p.m., I'm free. This is the part of the day I look forward to most: guitar practice. I've been playing for about a year now, and it's become one of my favorite hobbies. I pick up my guitar and start working on a new song I've been learning. It's not easy, but after a few tries, I start to get the hang of it. There's something about music that clears my head. It's like I forget about everything else when I'm playing. After an hour of practice, I head downstairs to help Mom with dinner. We usually have a family dinner around 6:30 p.m., and even though sometimes I just want to eat and go back to my room, I've started to appreciate these moments. We talk about our days. Mom tells me about her work, Dad shares some random news, and I get to update them on school or whatever funny thing happened that day. It's a nice routine, and I think it brings us closer. After dinner, I clean up the kitchen and then head upstairs to get ready for the next day. This is the part of my routine where I plan for tomorrow. I check my to-do list again, making sure I've finished everything I needed to do today, and I start thinking about what's coming up. If I've got a big assignment due, I'll make sure I set aside time to work on it the next day. By 8 p.m., I'm winding down. I take a quick shower, then settle into bed with a book. I used to scroll on my phone until I passed out, but I realized that it messed with my sleep. Now, I read a chapter or two before turning out the light. It's a small change, but it makes a big difference. Reading helps me relax, and I usually fall asleep faster. By 9:30 p.m., I'm out like a light. Now, let's break down some tips and tricks that helped me, and can help you, in getting your own routine started and staying on track. These aren't just rules to follow. They're little ways to make your day smoother, give you more time for the fun stuff, and help you feel more in control of your life. 1. Start small and build up. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to start a routine is taking on too much at once. Imagine trying to overhaul your entire day from the moment you wake up until bedtime. Sounds exhausting, right? That's why starting small is key. Pick 1 or 2 things you want to improve. For example, if you always feel rushed in the mornings, start by waking up just 10 minutes earlier than usual. Or if you struggle to finish your homework on time, set a specific hour in the evening to focus on it, distraction-free. These small changes make it easier to stick with your routine without feeling overwhelmed. Why this works? Small habits are easier to manage and more likely to become part of your everyday life. Once you've mastered one habit, it becomes easier to add another. Over time, these little habits stack up, and before you know it, you've built a solid routine that feels natural. 2. Set clear goals. You might wonder, why do I need a routine in the first place? Well, having a clear goal helps answer that question. What do you want to achieve by following a routine? Is it getting better grades, being more organized, having more free time for hobbies, or simply feeling less stressed? Knowing your why gives you motivation to stick with your routine, even when it's tough. Write down your goals somewhere you can see them every day, on your phone, in a notebook, or on your wall. When you see those goals, it's a reminder of what you're working towards. Why this works? Goals give you direction. Without them, you might start a routine, but you won't have any real reason to follow through. Goals keep you focused and provide a sense of accomplishment as you see yourself getting closer to them. 3. Plan the night before. Mornings can be chaotic if you're not prepared. That's why planning the night before is a game changer. Before you go to bed, take a few minutes to think about your next day. Set out your clothes, organize your school supplies, and check your schedule so you know what's coming up. When you wake up the next morning, you'll already know what you need to do, and you won't waste time scrambling. Why this works? Planning the night before helps you start your day with a clear mind. You won't have to worry about forgetting anything, and you'll feel more in control from the moment you wake up. Plus, you'll save time, which means less rushing around. 4. Create a morning routine. You enjoy mornings. Set the tone for your entire day. If your mornings are chaotic, your whole day can feel out of balance. On the flip side, if you start your day with things that make you feel good, you'll be in a better mood and more productive. For example, listen to your favorite music while getting ready, have a breakfast you enjoy, or take a few minutes to stretch or meditate. Why this works? When you look forward to your morning, it's easier to wake up and start your day. A positive morning routine can improve your mood and give you energy, setting you up for a successful day. 5. Prioritize the hardest tasks. First, it's easy to put off difficult tasks, but procrastinating only adds stress later. Instead, tackle the hardest thing on your to-do list first. Whether it's homework, studying, or a chore you don't like, getting it out of the way early means you'll feel more accomplished and less worried for the rest of the day. Why this works? We tend to have the most energy and focus earlier in the day. By doing the hardest task first, you're using that energy when it's at its peak. Plus, once it's done, you'll feel a sense of relief that will make the rest of your day easier. 6. Use time blocks. Instead of multitasking, which often leads to feeling scattered, try using time blocks for different activities. For example, dedicate 1 hour to homework, another hour to a hobby, and 30 minutes for relaxing. During each time block, focus only on that task. Why this works? Time blocking helps you stay focused and productive. By assigning specific times to tasks, you'll avoid getting distracted and make better use of your time. It also makes your day feel more structured,